Barstool Mincy of Barstool Sports here. I'm good friends with the Saints Happy Hour podcast, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I'm really just friends with Andrew Hughes, so I support him because I feel sorry for him. Good dude, but way too bougie to take seriously when it comes to football.
Sean Payton would have done illegal things. Don't tell me I'm wrong, because you know it's true.
Ralph? If he was an NFL GM, a team would never win a freaking game. Trade this, sign this guy. Awful ideas and armchair quarterbacking, full-blown panic every show.
Marcus Marquez Callaway.
With Dave, here's the key. When he talks, just mute or fast forward 5 minutes. Hopefully he's done talking by then and headed back to the bathroom where he seems to eternally live.
Put that freaking clown meme back up that I made. Jesus Christ.
Then Kevin, man, why the hell is he still on the show? He doesn't even watch the damn games, and somehow they keep inviting him.
Budrich wants to know how the doctor's doing.
That ended.
Podcasting poverty, man. Who dat?
All right, everybody, it is draft day. Thursday, we've been counting down the days, and we're finally here. It's draft day on Thursday. So I got Kevin with me. I got Dave. We're on the YouTubes. Click that like button. Click that subscribe button. Click that share button to spread Saints Happy Hour all throughout the YouTube world and on Facebook, whatever social media you use. Go to saintshappyhour.com and subscribe. Become a Saints patron. We are the best Saints podcast in the world. We win awards. Support us. It's the best money you'll spend all year to make your Saints fan experience awesome and support the great community we have. All right, Kevin. It's a big day for you because you are our draft day expert. You do how many? Like you've done hundreds of mock drafts. I don't
Pressure
even know.
is on. Pressure is on.
You're doing probably doing 1,000 mock
This
drafts.
is,
But
by
Dave,
the way, I just want to take a moment. I want to give a little applause. I want to give Kevin his due because I feel like literally it was 2 years ago. It wasn't this year, but I think it was last year.
That's right.
Somehow Kevin just started doing mock drafts on PFF,
drafts,
and he for some reason he just got addicted to it, and he through that just inherently became an expert at all things draft picks because he had done so many mocks. He saw all the names, he saw where they were going tons of times. He was like a beautiful mind, Russell Crowe, and a beautiful mind. When you talk to Kevin, he's staring off into
John
space.
Nash.
He's not looking. He's not looking into your eyes. He's staring off into the distance because he's seeing in air behind you. He's seeing all of the different draft picks and where they could potentially go and who's not going to take them and who might trade up. But anyway, I just seriously, and now he has become. During draft time on our podcast, he has become
the guy. He's the guy.
Own little beautiful our own little bald, beautiful Mel Kiper. He's our own little bald Mel Kiper.
It's amazing. And here's the thing: I text
he's
Kevin.
He's the anti-Mel Kiper. He's the anti-Mel.
And
he's the bizarro Kiper.
And people who are patrons probably realize that the draft stuff, Kevin took that over. I'm doing risers and mock drafting.
It's crazy. Stop talking. Just stop talking. But I want to give Kevin his due. This isn't about you, Ralph. This isn't about you. All right. WWL. You can go on WWL tomorrow morning whenever they need you. That's fine. But tonight, this is about Kevin, and Kevin's has been incredible and has become very valuable to our podcast for his knowledge. But has done a great job. Valuable. And I trust Kevin's opinion. From here on
That's
out.
right. I appreciate
I would be
that really means a lot. It really does. I'm very touched.
Kevin just having incredible draft pick takes and you could throw out a name and it'd be like, oh, that guy, he's rising or he's falling. It's amazing. And Kevin, it's draft day, right? Even though Kevin broke Dave burst the bubble, and people think we're recording.
By the way,
but it's draft day.
If you're listening to this, I'm playing golf right now in Mississippi.
That's right.
Well, if you're watching this
live, we got to do
watch it on Twitch.
Early.
If you watch the show on Twitch and then you see this on YouTube, you're going to look at us and be like, "Wait a minait." They're wearing the same thing from 2 days ago.
They're wearing the same things. Ralph's eyes are glazed over from all the liquor.
Wait, are we recording video here?
Yes, we are.
Oh,
so here's the
all
thing.
those compliments you gave me are now eternally recorded.
Nah.
Put on your pants, Dave.
You can't take it back. Yeah. But here's the thing, Kevin, that I wanted to talk to you and Dave about is that I was listening to a podcast from Robert Mays of The Athletic and Bill Barnwell. And they were going over.
I like him.
They were talking about how teams, when you screw up a draft and you screw up a draft at a position multiple times over multiple years, you end up in a I forgot what they call it, like a death spiral of like, we drafted this position, we spent 2 high draft picks on it and it didn't work. Now we got to go sign a free agent and that free agent didn't work and it's just a death spiral. They used Atlanta as an example, right? After John Abraham retired in like 2012, they drafted Takk McKinley, they drafted Vic Beasley, they signed Dante Fowler. Like, it's just a spiral of sadness. And I got to thinking that, like, oh my God, we're kind of there with the Saints at defensive end, where, like, if they draft a defensive end tonight at 29 or move up or move down or whatever, it'll be the fourth first round pick that they've spent on a defensive end since 2018. Look, they got Marcus 2 firsts, obviously. You got
Peyton Turner. And
you got the guy they'll pick tonight. That'll be 4 first round picks on the defensive line. Like, Kevin, they're at a moment where they have to get this right. And the reason why I wanted to have you on is I wanted to task you with the situation was, look, if you agree with me and you say the Saints better get this right, or defensive end, they're going to be screwed in 2024 because you got a bunch of draft busts and you got Cam Jordan, who's 100 years old. He can't keep going on forever. How would you, if you were the Saints and you're like, we got to get a defensive end, we've got to get a young guy in the building right now. If you were the Saints, how would you go about attacking that problem and feeling that you've solved it for 2023 and going forward? Would you do it by doing multiple picks? Would you trade up? Would you target a guy, just pick a guy at 29 that you really like? What would be your philosophy of how to make sure that happens?
Look, my philosophy is always, as the light on my computer starts to tilt, my philosophy has always been to trade down. I know we're sitting at 29, and it is unlikely that there's very little chance that Lucas Van Ness is going to fall that far. It is poor odds that Miles Murphy will fall down that far. Brian Bresee and Mazi Smith, those are defensive interior, so I don't know if that factors into this equation or not.
I mean, that could factor in if you grade it.
Those two might be. Mazi Smith is very likely to be there at 29. Brian Bresee there's an okay chance that he might be there at 29. But the edge defenders, you got to wait to 40 to get to make another reach at that. But like I said, I am a trade down guy. If you can get more picks in the top 100 that you love to clamor for, in the top 100, I would say if it's 4th rounders in the top 4 rounds. So that puts you at pick 128, 128 or so.
Little more because you got the comp picks in the 3rd round. So probably like 140, let's say.
I mean, if only one of us had a device that could tell you where everything is going to be. So pick 4 ends at pick 135. Okay. If you can get extra picks going through round 4, that means you've got more bullets in the gun to fire at positions of need, like your defensive line, like corner. You want to grab that tight end so you can throw fish guy out. You want to get that wide receiver so you're not taking chances late. If you get more bullets in the gun, you can fire more shots.
Dave, I'm glad you joined us for this.
No, Dave is gone.
Oh, Dave is gone.
Yeah, Dave had to bail. Dave had to bail. He had to go
Dave's
tuck the
playing
kids
golf,
in.
man.
Yeah. He was due up. He was due up to swing. He's not tucking the kids in. He's actually, yeah.
So Kevin, like to me, this is a thing where even Andrew Juge, who tends to be positive and he's got his sources and he, that sort of thing. Even he's like, the defensive line for the Saints is kind of crummy and they need reinforcements. Like, I feel like this is a real sort of watershed moment. Like if they botch another defensive lineman high pick, like they're going to be, I think it's going to be a real struggle in 2023 to get to 9-10 wins in the South, even though the South is bad. Like they need a guy. I'm not saying they need an instant 10 sack guy, but they need a guy that like by the middle of the year that we're like, whether they pick Murphy or they pick the guy from Northwestern, the name that I can't even come close to pronouncing, or whoever. Adebayo. Like they have to have a guy where we like by like say Halloween are like, that's a good pick, man. He might only have 3.5 sacks, but you see it, you're like, he's coming on, he's contributing, he's playing. They cannot have a Stanley Jean-Baptiste situation where they pick a defensive end and we're like, oh, great. Another coach's decision where he's inactive and he's a healthy scratch. Like they cannot have that situation. So I'm not going to ask you to trade up because I know that's against your religion, your constitution, all of that. But if I said to you, give me 2 names of guys in the 29 to 40 range that you really believe in that can help the Saints immediately and will be in the rotation. Edge, or I'll even let you stretch, even interior, because even though they signed Shepard and they signed Sanders, I still like those guys are just, they might be like Shy Tuttle plus, those are body. Like if they get an interior guy, they need him to succeed too. So give me 2 names of guys on the defensive line. It can be interior, exterior, interior, edge, whatever you want, that you are really confident and you would be really excited about on tonight when we're doing our post-draft Saints podcast. You're like, those are guys. Those are gonna hit. I'm really confident that they're gonna succeed.
All right. So between 29 and 40, let's see. I'll even take out Mazi Smith and Brian Bresee because I've said so much about him.
Yeah.
I would say Keanu Benton from Wisconsin.
Interesting. Yeah, he's an interior.
He's 6'4", weighs 309.
Yeah.
I don't know the Raz right now off the top of my head. Keon White from Georgia Tech.
9.92.
Yeah, that's it. Because Juge went with him in his mock.
His mock.
And yeah, like I would go with that. And Tuli Tuapolotu from USC. Yeah,
it's interesting. I just look at this draft, and I really, really hope that that one of the edge guys that the Saints like, Kevin, falls. One, because I would love, like, if the Saints could just pick at 29 and not burn any assets to move up. Like, I think they need it because I think they need bodies. Me and you can celebrate it like a win. Trading down obviously would be ideal, but I just look at this roster and they can't afford to be burning assets and moving up. And I know it's their MO and I know it's how they operate, but they're the oldest roster in the NFL. They've had the most weighted snap by the oldest players in the NFL by percentage. Like, they need an injection of youth. And 29, 40, 71. Like, the days of the Saints having that roster of 2018 to 2020 where they can target 1 to 2 guys. And even though the Adam Troutman trade didn't work out and they did the mini and he's not that good, like I understood it because they're like, look, listen, we don't have 4, 5, 6, 7 spots on our roster for this draft. So let's just get 2 or 3 really good players. Like I understood it then. Now, that is not the case with the Saints anymore. Like they desperately need youth. And I know this podcast is about the defensive line. Like I would say this, if they don't, and feel free to just shoot me down and say I'm a lunatic. Okay. But if they don't get an impact defensive line, at least a rotation guy at 29 or 40, there's 2023 seasons in peril. I really believe it.
Like you want me to disagree?
Like I want you to disagree. Well, not necessarily disagree. I want you to give me a name of a guy that you're like that if they pick because I think the more I think about this as we discuss this, I think the Saints know what we're talking about. They need to fix the defensive line. My worry is that the Saints are going to overdraft somebody. What would be a guy at 29 and even 40, or God forbid they trade up? Who's a guy that they would move that you think potentially could be overdrafted and he would fit into that mold for the Saints? Is it a guy where they're like, oh, they traded up, but they didn't take Murphy. They didn't take this guy. They took Foskey and he's rated 71. Like, who's a guy that you're like, you worry that the Saints may overdraft?
Overdraft. I would probably say the overdraft. I would say the Baylor guy, Siaki Ika, and hopefully I'm getting that name somewhat correct.
Yeah.
He was rated a little bit higher than he is now, so he's dropped. Mm-hmm. He's dropped a little bit. My concern would be they trade up to get an edge defender, and then they're looking at 40, and he's there.
No.
And they take him instead of I guess my concern is they look at the position and say, all right, we need to get something right now for this position because this is something of need. Whether it's at 29, 40, or 71, they say, okay, we need somebody, edge defender, we need interior, we need a corner, and because we're at this pick, we have to get this kind of person instead of taking maybe the best player on the board, or saying, okay, what is maybe not the most pressing need, but is still something we can use? What do we have there? And I go back to this again. Can we trade back and then stockpile so we get value? So if we're going to take a shot, if we're going to, quote unquote, reach, we can then take another shot, or we won't feel as bad because, hey, we've got more chances at picking guys and we can settle it all out in training camp. I know everybody likes to give me shit when I'm picking like 10 or 11 guys in a draft. Do I think all 10 or 11 are going to make the team? No.
But the Saints are at that point.
If I get 5 of 11 people that are good enough to make the team, then great. I've filled that. Whereas if you have a standard draft and you pick 7 players, you are hoping and praying that you get 2 good players.
That's right.
Out of 7.
Well, I think the Saints were at a position, and as I mentioned earlier, where like if you drafted 11 guys, you had 4 spots on your roster, and you got to hope that this draft of 10, 11 guys clears the waivers, and then you put them on the practice squad maybe, and they develop. But now the Saints are at they're at the spot where like they need to do a full draft. They need to have a draft of 6, 7, 8 guys, right? who is a guy, because people are listening to this Thursday. They're listening to this Thursday morning. They're listening to the drive into work. Maybe they're drive home from work. They're getting ready for the draft tonight. Who are guys that you don't really like, and as they come off the board in the first round, because that's what's tonight, as they come off the board, you're like, yes.
All right.
Yes.
So let me take a look here and go back.
Who's guys that you, because that's the fun of it. When you look at a draft, you sort of root for the guys that you want to fall. Like me, I love Bijan Robinson. I just want him to fall. He's not going to get to 29, but I'm dreaming, right? But who are guys that you're like, pick that guy? Yeah, Atlanta, you pick that guy. Yeah, that corner one. Yeah, like who are the guys we need to, in your opinion, we need to root for to come off the board before the Saints pick?
I want all the quarterbacks gone. I want all of them gone. I want all of them gone. I want the tackles gone. I want the top wide receivers gone. I even want the top corners gone. If we and look, and that includes Deonte Banks from Maryland, who I've actually kind of taken a shine to when it comes to trading up. There have been
Hooker
times where I've
a quarterback
actually
you want the team trading into the first round to take him. Yeah.
Say again.
Hooker, the quarterback for Tennessee, you would want a team maybe trading.
If
back
somebody
into the
is
first round.
exact, hey, make those like Hendon Hooker shouldn't be in the first. I have seen nothing to lead me to think Hendon Hooker is a first round pick in terms of, again, all I'm looking at are numbers and the draft mocks and vibes. I do not watch film. I'm not the film guy. Juge is the film guy. But of all the mocks and the simulations that I see, Hendon Hooker is not going in the first round. Hendon Hooker is a late second round guy. So if somebody wants to reach and grab him in the first, great.
Beautiful.
Push down more tight ends, push down more defensive ends or the defensive interior people to 29 so the Saints do not get, a hair up their ass and decide to try and trade to, 18 through 22 to try and get the person that they really want and blow more assets.
Yeah. So
look, that's probably a chalk. That's probably a chalk answer. It's like, oh, get rid of all the quarterbacks because the Saints don't need a quarterback. Well, yeah, I mean, how many quarterback prospects are there? I just want to pull this up. Young, Stroud, Levis, Richardson. And look, maybe somebody goes nuts and wants to reach for Hooker. Maybe somebody liked Tanner McKee so much that they reach for him in the second round.
That's right.
Before pick 40. I would love it if somebody reached for Hendon Hooker or Tanner McKee before pick 40.
That's right.
I would love it.
And the quarterback draft is really interesting this year. Before we get out of here, is because last year you said it, the experts said it, everybody said it. They were like, the quarterbacks this year suck, and we're not taking them. And it kind of went that way, and they kind of talked. They're like, oh, maybe Malik Willis in the top, blah blah blah. But in the end, Kenny Pickett in his tiny hands was the only guy, right? And he went in the first round, but then Malik Willis went later, and none of them got picked. This year's sort of been different, Kevin, in a sense of like, at the beginning of the process, it was like, oh, we might have pick quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4, and Hendon Hooker's going to go first round, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be like 83 draft. But now, as we get closer to the draft, and it's draft day, now it's like these teams are like, we don't like Mike Stroud. He scored 18 on that new test they had. We don't like Levis.
Again,
so like
vibes, I got nothing.
Are getting
the vibes
lower.
Are bad.
The vibes are bad at quarterback.
It's like Will Levis has like the size and the tools, so to speak, or whatever. But is he in a vacuum a better quarterback than Stroud or Young? No, but Stroud and Young are undersized. Richardson is allegedly the most athletic of all of them, but apparently is not that accurate. But so you would have to you would have to get him as a project, and then you got to worry about maybe being rushed into putting him on the field sooner than he's needed. And then you also have to worry about, aren't these guys going to go to shitty teams?
That's right.
And then the shitty team is going to then wreck them. Your real hope is that somebody gets, if you're a team that wants to bring in a quarterback as competition or maybe can sit for a year or two, that's what you'd want to hope, instead of drafting a quarterback and putting all your hopes and dreams on that guy and all that other kind of stuff.
My nightmare scenario is we get to pick 10, 11, and I'm texting you, and we're like, oh my God, Stroud, Richardson, and Hooker are all still available, and we're out of the top 10. Like that would be a nightmare scenario for the Saints. And
right, because that means they've taken the defense. They've likely taken a couple of defensive players, because there's some tackles that are going to go in the first round. There's some corners that are going to go in the first round, and there's some wide receivers. I guess my fear is that the tackles will drop, the corners will all drop, because the defensive linemen are all going early.
That's right. But to end it on a positive note, yes, it would make the Saints fixing the defensive line, which was the main thrust of this podcast, more difficult. But I'm telling you, Kevin, if the quarterbacks get pushed down, if the offensive lineman gets pushed down, I just think our trade down dreams become more and more likely. Are they as likely as other teams? Because the Saints never do it. But I'm telling you, if there's no defensive lineman there and the Saints can't get up to get one, they may be sitting there at pick 29 and are like, hey, we don't have anybody we really love. At 29, we got 4 or 5 guys in our cloud. And hey, team in the early second round, you want to get one of these tackles? You want to come up and get Hendon Hooker? The Texans, hey, you drafted Will Anderson at 2 and you drafted a receiver at 12 and you want to get Hendon Hooker. You want to move down. You want to move up 3 spots to get Hendon Hooker, 4 spots to get that 5th-year option and give us an extra 4th. Cool. Like, I think that is if you are jonesing for the Saints to trade down and get more picks, root for the offensive linemen to fall, root for the quarterbacks to fall, root for all the defensive players to go. Final question, then we get out of here.
Yeah.
When the Saints pick at 29, over under quarterback still available, 1.5.
Out of the 5?
Out of the 5. When the Saints pick at 29, quarterback still available, over under 1.5. Well, that would mean Anthony Richardson and Hooker. Okay, under. Ooh, okay.
Hooker will be the one. Hooker will be the one. Somebody will take Richardson before Hooker.
Yeah. So guys, enjoy your draft day. Listen to this podcast. After you finish this podcast, go to saintshappyhour.com, subscribe to the podcast, become a patron so you can get our breaking news podcast that we will analyze the Saints pick or trade down, whatever they do at 29. We will analyze it. We will have it hot and fresh for you off the presses at 10, 11 at night tonight or in the morning for your commute on Friday. And we will have special podcasts with me and Andrew and Kevin previewing day 2 of the draft. Become a Saints patron. It'll be the best money you spend all year to make your Saints fandom awesome. Thanks for Kevin for hanging out with us, doing amazing draft coverage all draft season. Thanks for Thomas and Poland running the show back, the best producer in the world. Guys, thanks for joining us. And until later tonight, when the Saints make their first round pick, the bar is closed.